I want you to imagine something. Imagine you're a 12-year-old. It's June 15th, 2021, and you're watching E3, the final one before the event was canceled. But you didn't know that yet. No one did. Although you found yourself entangled with all things video games and were to some extent excited about what each company had to share, you were really there for one thing: Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. At the time, Smash was only 2 characters away from the final DLC character of Pack 2, and personally, I had mixed feelings on most of them. Min, Steve, Sephiroth, and the Xenoblade girls were cool, but I was still missing that one character that really stuck out to me. And that's when it happened. After hours of waiting, a trailer began. Since there was no Smash logo, it wasn't quite guaranteed what would be shown. All I saw was Ganondorf looking lifeless and dead, being carried away. And even though that could suggest a new Zelda game, it couldn't be. The style of the trailer looked too smashy, I guess. Anyways, before I knew it, I was watching one of Nintendo's greatest villains being thrown into a volcano. And in that small moment, I knew that if this trailer was indeed Smash related, it couldn't have been Waluigi or Crash Bandicoot or Sora, and unfortunately, not Shadow the Hedgehog, as it was clearly a human. So I started to wonder, what exactly did Sakurai have planned for me? And that's when it happened. A red eye flashed, and the arms of a strange figure were crossed. Before I knew it, the splash screen came about, confirming it was Kazuya? I wasn't quite sure yet. But after a short montage of the absolute insanity this guy was capable of, something hit me. Even though I didn't know who this was, he looked familiar. Too familiar. And that's when it hit me. Once upon a time, my brother owned a little game called Tekken 6. And after further inspection, there he was, the new DLC character right in the center of the game's cover art. To be honest, I didn't have really any memories playing the game more than once, and I don't remember a thing. But clearly, the trailer wasn't the first time me and Tekken crossed paths. But this was the beginning of a new interest. June 29th of the same month, I did something unthinkable. I bought Kazuya for Smash, which that may not seem like the craziest thing, but for me, it absolutely was. This guy who was so cool to me that I bought him with my own money, who I really didn't even know yet. And that $5 ain't no joke, but as I was saying, I never necessarily mained Kazuya, but I definitely played him nonstop for about 3 weeks. And although it's been a while, I do remember his moveset being very fast-paced. And I love the 10-piece combo that you could pull off, as it's one of those things that kind of sets him apart from characters like Ken and Ryu, who I'm sure he's often grouped up with for being fighting game characters who are making an appearance in a non-traditional fighting game. Another thing that set him apart was the lack of a victory theme, just his victory being echoed through the same announcer from his games. And as a whole, it's safe to say that through Smash, I became a fan of Kazuya. But as for the entire franchise, not quite. But me being me, it didn't take long before I went searching for more. Fast forward to December of 2021. A video titled Tekken Complete Story Breakdown, Mishima Blood Feud, Tekken 1 through 7 was recommended to me. And like any person interested in learning more about the franchise, I watched the video. And although this didn't give me the full lore of the series, it let me know what's happened in what's often considered to be the main storyline of said series. And as a result, I now had actions, fights, and character arcs associated with Kazuya, along with some knowledge on other characters like Jin and Heihachi. But that was really it. But it was enough to get me thinking. What if Jin or even Heihachi was in Smash Bros? ... PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale was a PlayStation 3 game which has often been named as one of many Smash Bros. Clones. But I wanted to form my own opinion. So I got my own copy, and boy, I love this game. Sure, it's not anything on the level of Smash, but it's a fun alternative to a non-Nintendo fan. And yeah, the roster's bad, but since I don't really have much of a connection to PlayStation IPs, and I was also not around for the build-up of the game, so I wasn't one of the people who thought the roster would be better, I relatively enjoyed my time. And then there's Heihachi, which in this game, he plays exactly how you would expect he would. He's pretty much just him in the games, but not as much. Surprisingly enough, though, he wasn't even my main, considering as that was Nariko from Heavenly Sword. But I did in fact complete the arcade mode with Heihachi. Back to Smash, though. It's no surprise that one of the goals of the game is to get its players to go back and play the games of those who were added as fighters, and I felt myself actively wanting to play a true Tekken game, so much so that it became a goal of mine to play one. And I know what you're thinking. What about the Tekken 6 copy on the Xbox 360? Well, the Xbox 360 in question was somewhat out of service, so with no way of playing Tekken 6 anymore, I wondered how I would achieve this goal. My younger brother around this time got the PS1 Classic. Yeah, that one. And even though I wasn't super amped to have my turn on the console, I knew that there was something special in that tiny box. That's right, Tekken 3. Tekken 3 released in the arcades in 1997 and on home consoles in 1998. The game was set 20 years after the second and follows Kazuya's son, Jin, as he attempts to revenge his mother's death. And if you didn't know, Tekken 3 is often considered to be the absolute peak of the series, and I definitely saw why. The gameplay was fun, the music is without a doubt the best in the franchise, with the only challenger being Tekken Tag Tournament 1. Actually, you can add Tekken 4 to that argument, but that's it. But it's safe to say this game had quite the effect on me. So much so that it led me to find The Insane Lore of Tekken, a video made by Clement J64, was my first true look into all the other things this wacky but yet still serious series had to offer. And my god, this video and Tekken 3 as a whole had a huge ripple effect on me, leading me to attempt to watch the movie, keyword attempt, watch the TV show, which is a banger, please drop season 2, and even buy some of the action figures. And for a period of time, I even listened to Jin's Tekken 3 theme every day on the way to school. The video also served as a gateway to a lot of my now favorite characters in the franchise, like Marshall, Paul, Nina, Ling Xiaoyu, Lee, but mainly in the earlier games, Olger, Asuka, and any variation of King. So I was attached. But even after having some fun with the game, though, I still felt a little unsatisfied. Since the PS1 Classic controllers were so outdated, I found my Tekken 3 experience rather limiting. And so I lacked that true Tekken experience still. I wanted more. Not a game that had a Tekken character as DLC, not a game that had a Tekken character simply in a crowd of other characters, and not a poorly made collection with a Tekken game thrown in. No, I wanted the real deal. It was September 2022, more than a year later since this whole thing started. I sat in my room watching PlayStation's State of Play, and right as it started, I felt that feeling again. The same feeling I felt just a year prior. Obviously, it wasn't Smash because this is a PlayStation State of Play, but it was a feeling of knowing a big game was coming. Could the rumors be true? Was it finally time? And thankfully, it was. Just like the last time, 2 characters in a setting with lava, with one of them being Kazuya Mishima. And just like that, Tekken 8 was on the way. At times, I had considered getting Tekken 7, or even the PS3 collection of games with the little movie inside of it, but I never did because I always felt something larger was on the way. And so after that trailer, every day I waited and waited for the game, even at some point making a video on it myself, which you can watch. I'm not saying you should, but you can. And the whole time I knew one thing. I knew Tekken 8 would meet my expectations. Not too long after release, it was mine. Tekken 8 was in my hands, and not even Kazuya himself could stop me from popping it in. Well, actually, he probably could. But anyways, full of energy and hype, I popped it in, and of course I had to wait 1,000 years for it to load up. But after an hour, it was time. I instantly hopped into the story mode, and for the next 3 days, I ran through the story like it was nothing. and I loved every second of it. Seeing the stories I had studied continue in real time, unlocking all the character endings, the funny ones, the pointless ones, the creepy ones, and the wholesome ones, Tekken 8 gave me a bit of everything. And so when the game ended and the credits faded, I applauded two things. One, my ability to actually beat the game, and then, number two, everyone that worked on it. And after a few minutes, I thought to myself, how crazy it is that all this started in my basement, sitting on the carpet floor, hoping the next Smash character would be Waluigi or literally anyone else that I already knew. But in hindsight, what I ended up getting was much better. Rather than the satisfaction of getting a character from a series I already enjoyed, I got a taste of what, after a 2-year-long journey, would become one of my favorite franchises ever. I love Tekken. The characters, the music, the gameplay, the fan base, everything about it just feels right. And I couldn't thank anyone else more than Masahiro Sakurai, who for one reason or another believed Kazuya from Tekken would fit right in with his iconic roster of gaming icons. Wow, that was a lot more of a love letter than I thought it would be, but I have no regrets. Normally, after becoming such a huge fan of something that's been ongoing for literal decades, I have this eerie feeling of wishing I knew about it sooner, that maybe I could have caught Tekken 7 when it came out, or maybe even Tekken Tag Tournament 2. But I didn't feel like that at all. Actually, I feel like I've been a Tekken fan my whole life, and with all the lore and content I've consumed at this point, it would be hard to not think so. I mean, heck, making this video alone confused me because I honestly thought it had been way more years since Kazuya was put in a Smash. But I was wrong. Anyways, I'd like to thank anyone who made it to the end. I hope you can like and subscribe if you enjoyed. This video was a lot of fun to make. But until next time, peace.